Hi there, Year 9s. Today we're going to look at solving linear equations. So I'm going to explain this sort of as I go, but the thing I want to emphasize is, first of all, whenever we're looking at any kind of equation, we always start by writing out the question. So 3x plus 7 equals 22. We've got to consider that our first step of working. Okay, now in this equation, x is a number that we don't know that we're trying to work out. Some of you may be able to see what it is already, but the point that is important here is our working and how we're going to show our working so that when we get much more difficult problems, we have no trouble showing it. So what I'm going to do, or my strategy, is to end up getting x by itself. So there's two things acting on x at the moment. One is it's being times by 3, and the other is it is being added to by 7. So we've got to think, well, in what order are these things happening? So timesing happens first and adding happens second. So if we're trying to work backwards to solve this, we would have to get rid of the adding part first, and then we'd have to get rid of the timesing part, because working backwards we'd have to do the opposite of BEDMAS. So my first step of working is going to be subtracting 7. And you might be thinking, well, what's the point of subtracting 7? The point of subtracting 7 is that that is the opposite thing of adding 7, and so it has the effect of cancelling our 7s out. But the key thing to remember is that because of this equals here, we are bound to do whatever is done on this side of the equals has to also be done on this side of the equals. Because if you do different things to each side of the equals, it will become unequal. So that means we have to write -7 here as well. So that's our first step of working, and now we're going to write down what our equation will look like after we've done that. So the 7s, as I mentioned, they've cancelled out, they've added to 0. And so all we're left with on this side is 3x. So we write that underneath 3x. Then we've got our equal sign. On this side, we've got 22 minus 7. And 22 minus 7, that's 15. Okay, once we've come this far, our next step is to think, well, what's happening to x now? Well, x is being times by 3. So we have to think to ourselves, well, what's the backward step of timesing by 3? And working backwards, our step would be to divide by 3. And like I said before, because this is an equation, we have to divide both sides by 3. So what happens here? Well, our 3's cancel out, because 3 divided by 3 is just 1. And so 1x we just write as x. On the other side, we've got 15 divided by 3, and 3 goes into 15 exactly 5 times. And that's our answer. X equals 5. And so look at all of this working that I've got here. That's the working that I need to see in your books, working down the page and showing a different line for each step of working and each new equation that you're writing. Now, one other thing is, when you get to the end of your equation, you can put this answer back into here to see if it works. So let's see, 3 times 5 plus 7. Well, that's going to be 15 plus 7, and that equals 22. So because we get 22 as our answer, we know that we've gotten this equation correct.